Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar, run through the UKV, have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days. It is remaining fairly dry for most towards the end of this week into the weekend, and it does look likely it will turn quite warm perhaps for early February towards the weekend. Now this upcoming working week, or at least the rest of this working week, temperatures will be around average in the day and quite cold overnight temperatures, well below freezing wherever we have clearer skies. There will be a bit of precipitation and cloud at times in the north and west when it does push in, but most areas will be relatively dry and pleasant. But as I said, into the weekend, we're going to see a waft of quite warm upper air temperatures coming up from the south, and there is uncertainty exactly how mild it will get, but sort of the cooler scenarios have it around 10 to 12 degree highs, still well above average, and others have it getting up towards maybe 14 or 15 degrees for early February. So a little mini, perhaps, February heat wave. Again, it won't feel all too warm out there. It is still so early in the year, but relative to what we generally should experience this time of year, it could be really quite mild indeed, with upper air temperatures getting as high as essentially 10 degrees above average. So have a look at the various longer range models as well into the weekend and what could be happening beyond that, as it is accompanied by an area of higher pressure that does maintain strength over the top of us, actually pulling further northwards and eastwards, dragging up a southerly wind. But of course, where it goes after that will determine the subsequent air masses and precipitation as well. So we'll have a look at the longer range, of course, and the ensembles towards the second half of the video. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well. The link's in the description. So if we do start on the live radar, you can see at the moment that we don't have much precipitation at all, really. Some patchy areas of precipitation further northwards and westward through parts of Scotland, but once again it is a relatively dry day, and while we have sunshine, which is for most areas really, it is really quite nice out there. Temperatures around that sort of 7 or 8 degree mark, but when you're in the sun it does feel a lot warmer, as we are getting to that time of year where that sun strength really does rapidly start to increase, and just being out in the sun does give a good few degrees to that feel-like temperature. Now, if you put on the actual temperatures as of around 3 p.m, the peak of the day, you can see it isn't amazingly warm. Mixes of blues and yellows appearing here, so temperatures around average for the time of year, maybe slightly above, maybe slightly below in places, but around that sort of 6 to sort of 8 or 9 degree mark. Again, nothing too exceptional. Now, if we do go over to the weather warnings, you can see we do actually have one weather warning issued in the north and west from 6 a.m. tomorrow till 5 p.m. tomorrow evening. Strong south to southwesterly winds bringing some travel disruption and dangerous coastal conditions. Again, this is a small area for a warning. Again, not hugely populated as well, but it is going to bring some significant impacts. And it's because we've got an area of low pressure coming up against the high. Again, it's not strong enough to really topple it, but it will bring gusty winds and a weather front into parts of Scotland. As I said, it won't be dry all the time. Parts of north and the west, as I said, especially into Scotland, will see some heavy rain in a minute, over the course of this evening into tomorrow. And we'll have a look at the UKV in a minute to show that. If we go to the further details, again, you can see a strong south to southwesterly winds early Wednesday, bringing a very windy day, 65 to 70 miles per hour quite widely, as much as 75 miles per hour, and then the winds will ease considerably following the rain, which will cross during the early afternoon. High likelihood, lower end of the impact matrix. So if we do go over to that UKV now and have a look at what it is showing, you can see that patchy rain at the moment, but quite a significant weather front heading through tomorrow afternoon. Again, it's really quite heavy and squalling. You'd think quite a big area of rain is coming from many areas, maybe even some snow, but it does disintegrate as it spreads southwards and doesn't really get much further eastwards or southwards than central parts of the Republic of Ireland and southern Scotland. Could have some heavy snow on its back edge as well, colder areas digging in, and some wintry showers, and it could, overnight, Wednesday into Thursday, give some patchy rain and some thicker cloud in southern areas, but again, nothing too much, and into Thursday, it is again another widely quite dry day. Some precipitation, some showers into parts of northern areas, but nothing too substantial at all. Into Friday, another skirting of potentially some precipitation in the north. That could be further southwards, could be further northwards. And into Friday afternoon, again, largely dry, a bit more cloud around, so probably a cooler feel out there, and some patchy rain, but again, nothing too much. Into Saturday, a similar feel, but perhaps perhaps some more breaks in the cloud there, but again, still quite decent out there, and very little precipitation, and that continues all the way into Sunday, where we could have some quite warm air masses starting to waft up from the south. This UKV runs a little bit on the pessimistic side in terms of those temperatures, and a bit more mixing of air in terms of cooler air masses holding on a little bit more and seeing cooler temperatures overnight as well. But definitely, if we did see more of a direct southerly, as some of the runs are showing and some of the ensemble members are showing, it will perhaps be a good few degrees warmer than this UKV turns out to be. It's still showing sort of 12 or 13 degrees, as we'll see in a minute, but just not quite as warm as what some other runs are showing. So if you do look at the max temperatures, you can see this afternoon widely sort of 6 to 9 degree mark. Again, mild, but nothing exceptional for this time of year. Overnight tonight, widespread frost where we have clear skies, especially in the south. Really quite chilly, and that will continue into the morning. Perhaps -3 to -5 in places. So yeah, quite chilly. And into Wednesday in the day, again, 6 to 9 degrees, and you can see that cold front spreading to Scotland. It's going to have pretty chilly air behind it. So ahead of the weather front in clearer skies, overnight Wednesday into Thursday, it'll be really cold in the southeast, -2 degrees there for quite a few. But behind the weather front, further north and westwards, pretty much regardless of the cloud amounts, because the air mass is a lot colder at the upper levels, it will be widely around that freezing mark. The sandwich through northern and western England into Wales, that's why we're going to see temperatures hovering around the single digits. Beyond that, into Thursday, it's a cool day once again, widely sort of 5 to 10 degrees, and then overnight frost once again, where we have clearer skies. Into Friday, again, temperatures rising though, 8 to maybe 12 degrees, especially further westwards, as that warm air does waft in. Overnight into Saturday, not particularly cold at all overnight with those warmer upper air temperatures, and Saturday afternoon, widely 10 to 13 degrees, really quite mild for the time of year, and that will continue into Sunday, but a bit colder overnight, so perhaps a bit more of an inversion taking place there. Again, uncertain exactly how warm those air masses do get. You look at the upper air temperatures, perhaps 4 to 6 degrees, again, doesn't sound exceptionally mild, but for this time of year, it really is very mild, a good 10 degrees, perhaps above average for the time of year in places. So yeah, really mild, and again, we'll have to see exactly how those air masses do interact at the surface and what conditions they do give. Of course, we'll have those exact temperatures nailed more on later this week, but it could be anywhere from that sort of 12 to maybe 16 degree range for the high temperatures. So if we do go to the GFS now and see what that is showing over the course of the next couple of weeks, you can see the high pressure over top of us at the moment, low pressure tumbling in northern areas this evening into tomorrow, and that's giving that heavy rain and that squally weather front across Scotland. Beyond that, the high pressure pushes further eastwards, and by the weekend into early next week, it pulls up as southerly flows, and the warmest air can actually arrive into Monday there, where that southerly flow is stronger. But eventually, it will get shoved away, and westerly winds try to push in, but the high pressure hangs on here, and it actually tries to move towards Scandinavia, perhaps try to pull an easterly in there, but again, nothing too much comes from it. It's just a continental flow, probably chilly, generally average, and probably quite dry as well. Still be some rain around, but generally quite dry. If you do move back to this week and have a look at those upper air temperatures, you'll be able to see a cooler air mass spread through in the next sort of day or so, and then that very mild air mass moves up from the south, perhaps 5+ degrees at 850 HPA, incredibly mild for the time of year, and you'll see even better on the temperature deviation. Still stays generally mild beyond that, but not quite as mild, and with the wind direction coming more off the continent, it will have a little bit of a chillier feel. Wind direction very much matters this time of year. A direct southerly really is the only direction. A direct southerly to southwesterly really is the only direction to get proper mild air. Anything coming from the near continent will always be affected by cooler ground, and always to make it slightly chillier. So if you do have a look when we have those peak upper air temperatures, if we go to the temperature deviation, you can see a good 10 degrees above average at times. Really quite mild indeed. So yeah, really quite warm. A bit of a mini heat wave for northwest Europe appearing here through the weekend into early next week. If you go to the GM, see how that does compare. Again, the high pressure over the top of us over the coming days, it moves to our east and pulls up that southerly flow, really quite mild, does hang on before day 10. A westerly flow does push back in, but high pressure still dominating in the south, so probably still keeping it quite settled. Again, running back, have a look at the upper air temperatures. Again, you can see generally mild upper air temperatures towards the weekend, and a real push of warmth there towards the weekend, perhaps 10 degrees at 850 HPA by early next week across parts of Central Europe. Europe. Again, in the summer, that would be giving mid to high 20s in quite a few areas. So yeah, that would be really quite warm. But here, just generally giving us a well above average around that sort of 10, 12 degree mark at least, perhaps getting up towards 15 or 16. Again, look at the temperature deviation. You can see even warmer here, 10 degrees above average. Sort of hints, sort of edges onto the UK there in the southeast. Again, we'll have to see exactly where that warmest air mass does appear. But yeah, showing very, very mild conditions here, all the way generally to day 10. Yes, cooler interludes in the longer term, but still staying generally average to above average. Of course, though, we'll have to see exactly what happens to the surface, because we could start seeing inversion once again when those winds do fall lighter. If we look at the ECMWF, again, high pressure over the top of us. If we do run beyond that, it does move to our east towards the weekend, pulls up a southerly flow before it gets shoved away by lower pressure. So that warmer, milder, drier spell only lasts a couple of days here before it goes wet, windy, and probably cool with a northwesterly wind. It goes up air temperatures. Chilly polar maritime air does move back in. But if we do run back, you can see very warm actually towards the weekend and early next week. Again, you look at the temperature deviation, 6 to 8 degrees widely above average, perhaps peaking at 10 or 12 degrees across parts of the southeast and northwest Europe. So incredibly mild. Continuing here for all 3 months, pretty much bang on. We're going to be having a very mild weekend into early next week. Exactly how it does play out and exact temperatures still yet to be determined, but we could call it a little mini heat wave into the weekend. So if we do have a look at the ensembles now, latest GFS, you can see how it is turning a lot milder towards the weekend and early next week. Again, the average upper air temperatures this time of year, sort of -2, -3 degrees, and we're getting up to around 5 or 6. So a good 8 to maybe even 10 degrees above average in certain spots. And if you take the milder ensemble members, so yeah, really quite mild for the time of year, if not quite warm. In the longer term, it does trend more towards average, as we saw from the ensemble members, bringing more mixing of air, or even in some scenarios, more stagnating air. A bit of a change in a pattern, not a direct southerly. So more changes. But it still generally looks above average, and there does look likely to be more precipitation as well. But that precipitation trend keeps getting pushed back, so we'll actually have to see. But quite a dry spell coming here, very wet start to January, and now start to February is incredibly dry for most. So yeah, quite contrasting winter we've had so far. Very cold periods, very mild periods, very wet and windy periods, and now very dry periods as well. If you look at the sea level pressure, you can see generally very high pressure, at least the next week. The dew points are cooled, and that's why we still get frosts, because the air mass is generally dry and cold, but when we see the sunshine, it does warm it up. And look at the 2 meter temperature, you can see towards the weekend, trending towards that sort of 10 plus degree mark. Again, doesn't quite do the temperatures justice. Again, we'll have to see what the short range models do show for the weekend into early next week, but it could be in around that sort of 10 to 12 degree range. I think at least maybe as high as 14 or 15 degrees in the warmest spots. And of course, the Föhn effect could come into play as well because of the southerly wind. Any low ground to the north of higher ground could see the Föhn effect take effect, which would, of course, increase those temperatures perhaps by a couple of degrees. If you finish by looking at the ECMWF ensemble members, they do carry on that trend. Into the weekends, very mild, up towards 5 plus degrees at 850 HPA, and continue that all the way to around the 15th of Feb before trending towards average. But majority are staying above average there with high precipitation, but pretty much carbon copy really of the GFS, both ensemble members staying well aligned. And you look at the 2 meter temperatures towards the weekend, definitely increasing, and towards next week, definitely increasing to around that sort of 10 degree range. And again, it could be slightly higher, turning much milder. Again, exact wind direction, exact air mass, could change it from being, 8, 9, 10, 11 degrees to sort of 13, 14, 15. But somewhere in that range is what we will be expecting. None of this sort of 5, 6, 7 degrees we do have at the moment. It will be sunny, but it will be perhaps a little bit warm into the weekend start of next week. So I hope you do go out and enjoy that. Of course, we'll be keeping you updated here. One thing I would say of caution, though, is that we are seeing a sudden stratospheric warming taking place within the next sort of 7 to 10 days, and that could give us a bit of a false spring here, and we could be going back into winter towards the end of this month and start of March. Again, no guarantees, but an SSW does have a pretty high chance of producing a lot of blocking, and perhaps some very cold weather. Again, SSW caused the beast from the east back in 2018 at the end of February and start of March, so we could see something similar to that. Probably something less severe. That was very much on the severe end of the spectrum, but regardless, it could turn us a lot colder, and yeah, make us feel like we're back in December, or that sort of early December period again, if we do see that propagate through the atmosphere. So that is one thing I will say for caution. Yes, it will be warmer this weekend and early next week, but this may be only just hints of spring before we return properly back to winter soon, perhaps. So we'll have to see what happens. For the time being, make sure you enjoy the weather. It's very nice out there, pleasant, high pressure, warm feel out in the sunshine, and of course the actual temperatures will be increasing towards the weekend and start of next week. So anyway, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.